Horsepower engines.
Didn't know you were coming.
But the role that they were going to play, the Army back in 1941 put on a demonstration to see if these airplanes would be effective at spotting artillery. After the American Civil War, artillery made incredible advances due to discoveries of blue propellant powders and metals. Gone were the days where you had to see the target in order to shoot at it. Cannon could now fire well beyond the horizon. But there was no practical way to aim the gun. Radios were not invented at the time that you could get back to artillery firing the projectiles toward the enemy. But in the 1930s, when small portable radios were being invented and developed, you actually had to put them in small airplanes such as you see in front of you right now, and have them go out there and fly close to the forward edge of the battle and observe where the artillery shells were coming down and radio that back so corrections could be made in real time, made a huge difference. Where they got the name Grasshopper was with this exercise that happened down in near Memphis, Tennessee. It took place in 1941. It was out on a big open field, and General Ennis Swift was witnessing these airplanes bouncing around in this field. He said they looked like grasshoppers in a cornfield. Well, they stuck. The whole genre of airplanes of that type were known as grasshoppers.
The pilots.
When you consider the accuracy that the artillery developed by being able to lob in these shells right on top of the enemy very accurately, an airplane was very inexpensive to manufacture. One Army general calculated that because the Yellowbird's artillery spotting was so effective, they saved about 40 rounds of 155mm or 200 rounds of 75mm per bomb arc. The cost of these shells alone would exceed the price of a type of Cub. And it only took about 300 hours to build a type of Cub. So the little Grasshopper, when you consider that when the B-17 and B-24 might make 2 or 3 missions a week over the target, they'd spend about a minute and a half over the target area, and they were lucky to get 1% accuracy. These are actual records. Roughly 300 bombs were dropped for every hit within 1,000 yards of the target. Within 1,000 yards of the target was considered on target. And that would be if the target was a control tower across the field. Back here, the bombs would hit, and that was considered on target. Post-war evaluation, and World War II estimated that he would send out 62 bombers and over 600 men for every bomb that hit within that half-mile radius of the aim point. An error of anything under a half mile was considered acceptable accuracy. Now compare that to an L-4, the Piper aircraft that could fly 3 trips a day. spending an hour and a half over the target. And he called out 100 tons of high explosives every hour and put it exactly where it needs to be anytime that he wanted to. One L4 with 2 men on one mission could do more damage than an entire squadron of B-17s. The L4 was the airplane that was killing them. That was the one that was doing the damage. Germans were so afraid of the artillery spotter airplane. 1945, and they were so desperate for men. They offered 10-day furlough to anyone who could bring one down. A Luftwaffe fighter pilot got as many points for the medal as he brought down an L4, and he shot down a 4-inch bomber. Over 2,300 of the little fighter clubs, the L4s, were sent to the European Theater of Operations. Over 900 of them were lost in the battle. But there was a Piper L4 that was also involved in the last shoot down of World War II. It was actually just a day or so after the D-Day. Another aircraft that you will see flying here at the World War II weekend is a German aircraft called a Liasion Flight. And it was used by the Luftwaffe for the same purpose, for artillery spotting, for hauling people around the countryside so that they could take off and land on a dirt field. This Liasion Flight was out there doing its thing and was spotted by 2 pilots flying along in an L4, and they drew their .45 caliber handguns, their pistols, and they shot out the window. Guns out the window and shot at this Liasion Flight, and they actually forced the airplane to the ground. One of the pilots, I think, was shot in the foot. That's all the damage that was done. But they gave up. They landed. The pilots of the L4 landed right behind them, having shot down this airplane. They took them prisoner until the U.S. Army troops who were nearby came across and actually put them under surrender. And the war had already ended in Europe, so that was the last recorded battle of World War II, the last shoot down of an aircraft in World War II. And it was a little airplane done by one of the little airplanes that you're watching flying right now here at the World War II weekend. I want to thank Paul Smith, flying one of the L4s. I want to thank Gene Oshrin, flying the can with the star rondel on the side, flying the Aranca L3 Defender. That's the Mutt, called the Mutt. That's the name of the airplane. You're going to see it flying a little bit later on when we have our ground battle taking place right out in front of you. When you consider that some of the airplanes that you see, that you're going to see flying today, developed nearly 3,000 horsepower, and now you're flying these little airplanes flying around at just 65 horsepower. But yet they were so deadly in their role as artillery spotting aircraft. Right now they're landing on the runway down to your left. It's on a direction, a heading of 360 degrees. Or north, and that's why we call that runway 36. That's a convention that's used all over the world. All the runways are numbered by the magnetic compass heading of that runway. So the pilot goes out on final approach, he's clear to land on runway 36. Well, then he better be seeing an N at the top of the compass, 360 degrees. Otherwise, he's probably lined up at the wrong runway, or the compass goes nothing there. And that's used everywhere around the world. So if you're landing on runway 36, we're heading to the north. And I know that some of you say, well, I've been to airports where there's parallel runways. So they look at that. 36 left, 36 right. If you got one in the center, then it's 36 Charlie, or C, etc. So that works anywhere you go, except in a farm field that a friend of mine has down in Virginia. He says, I have a little airstrip on my field, come on down and land. So I said, okay, well, the winds are kind of out of the west today, but they're light and variable. He said, well, you can either land on runway 27, that would be west, or he said, if you come around the other way, you can land on runway 8. And I said, wait a minute, 090 is the reciprocal of that. It should be. He said, yeah, but there's a little bend in the middle of the runway. We'll figure it out.